morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Emma Wulfhorst. March is National Nutrition Month, an annual campaign started back in 1973 by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. This year's theme is Food Connects Us. Joining me now to discuss what's going on in Connecticut, Miranda Muro, Senior Director of Network Relations for Connecticut Foodshare, and Nancy Coughlin, CEO of Person to Person. Nancy, Miranda, thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So Miranda, I want to start with you. Tell me a little bit about Connecticut Foodshare. Who are you? What do you all do?
Sure. Connecticut Foodshare is a statewide food bank, and our mission is to deliver an informed, coordinated response to hunger. And we do that by providing food and other support to communities all across the state and to food pantries, community kitchens.
Yeah. And Nancy, for you, tell me a little bit about Person to Person.
So Person to Person is one of the partner agencies of Connecticut Foodshare, so they're a large provider of the food that we provide, but our nonprofit does a variety of other programs as well. Food is our largest program. We also provide housing assistance, college scholarships, we have a clothing center, we do job training and workforce training and summer camperships. So the idea is that all of our programs support people as they move toward economic security. We serve the lower part of the state, the southwest corner, lower Fairfield County.
Gotcha. So Nancy, I want to start with you for this next one, but then I'll go to Miranda as well. What are you seeing right now in terms of need? I know you said Person to Person does a lot, you know, for the whole person for multiple needs, but the biggest section is food. We know there's a big issue of food insecurity. So what are you seeing across the state right now, across Connecticut?
So I don't think anyone will be surprised by what is happening in the state. The high cost of housing, particularly in Fairfield County where we are located, is by far for us the largest driver of need and reasons for people seeking assistance. We saw that coming out of the pandemic, there was an enormous surge in the amount of people looking for help. But what is surprising is that number of people has not gone down. The demand has not gone down. At Person to Person, we're serving more than twice as much food as we did before the pandemic, and that's steady. It's leveled off a little bit, but it's not going down. So some of the drivers are that there was a lot of pandemic assistance, particularly the federal child tax credit that lifted 3 million children out of poverty. When those programs went away, the people that were struggling are continuing to struggle. So demand is high across the board and is continuing to grow.
I know we've seen that for a lot of nonprofits. Need was already high, exacerbated by the pandemic, and then it just stayed high. Is that what you're seeing at Connecticut Foodshare as well?
I think what Nancy just shared about what she's seeing at Person to Person is what we're hearing from partners all across Connecticut. Okay. The need is persistent. It's just as great as it was during the pandemic, if not greater, but the support isn't there the way it was during the pandemic. What we're hearing from partners, food pantries in every quarter of the state, small towns, cities, suburbs, is that the need is real and that there's not enough food at pantries and kitchens to meet that growing need. We're seeing many new faces who might be turning to a pantry for the first time. At the same time, we're seeing people who've been regular users of a pantry, their need is deeper. Their money's not going as far. We all see grocery prices, we see the cost of eggs, housing, and people are really struggling. I think we're hopeful that working together we can help find ways to serve our community, but it's really hard right now.
Can you tell me a little bit about what some of those ways are that you're serving the community right now?
Sure. At Connecticut Foodshare, one of our biggest things we do is we provide food to food pantries, community kitchens, like Person to Person all across the state. Over 600 sites receive food from Connecticut Foodshare through our mobile pantry program, and then direct organizations like Person to Person that are running their own programming, responding to the local need that they see. We also help households apply for SNAP on the phone through a call center that we have. And we also work towards long-term solutions, and we're advocating, I know Person to Person is as well, for long-term solutions. We know that there are programs that work, policies that work, and we're making sure, or trying to make sure, that those programs are as strong as they can be for our neighbors and the people who really need that support.
Yeah.
One of the things that we see is really, this is an area when we're dealing with food insecurity that there is room for everybody at the table to be a solution.
Sure.
So Miranda's correct. Policy is important. We know that policies and services and government programs like SNAP and WIC, which is provides food for women and infants, school meals. These are all programs that we know have immediate positive impacts, not just on health, but also on social behavior, on learning. So we know that works. What we're doing is filling in the gaps where the government programs fall short. So in America, in 1980, there were 200 food pantries in America. Today, there are more than 60,000. So we are dealing with a very different world than we did just 20, 30 years ago. And we all operate with food drives, food rescue from grocery stores, volunteers, volunteers, volunteers. So anybody who wants to get involved, there is always an opportunity to run a food drive, run a clothing drive, diapers and personal care items are another item that's always needed. Many food pantries are giving out those items now, which can't be purchased with SNAP benefits.
Right.
Many people don't realize, and volunteering. So those are the ways that we're going to achieve the goals that we have by working together.
And I do want to talk more a little bit about the changing landscape, but first you both mentioned policy and what you know works and filling in those gaps. We're in a legislative session right now. It's not only a long session, it's also a budget year. So can you share with me at all what some of those policies are, maybe what some of those conversations look like that you're having with state lawmakers about what you want to see out of this legislative session?
Sure, yeah. Right now, Connecticut Foodshare and our network partners are advocating for increased funding right now, and there's a bill to increase funding for a program called CT-NAP. It's the Connecticut Nutrition Assistance Program. Right now, Connecticut Foodshare receives $850,000 from the state each year to purchase food that we then provide to partners like Person to Person at no cost. We know that there's opportunity to grow that program, and we're looking to get increased support, asking for $10 million, which might seem like a large ask, but when we look at what other states around us are providing, we really pale in comparison to what the state of Connecticut is investing in food purchasing for food pantries and community kitchens. So there's a lot of opportunity for Connecticut to really take the lead and offer that support.
And what about you, Nancy?
Well, I just want to note that that CT-NAP program, that food goes directly right out into the community.
Right.
So it has an immediate impact on the people that are in need. We are aligned with Foodshare on what the policies are that we want to advocate for. There is a lot happening this year. There's some movement on some of the housing bills that we're looking at. But really what we need to do is make sure that Connecticut stays fiscally strong but does not leave people behind who are the most vulnerable, who are part of our economy, who are working at our coffee shops and in our retail stores and are working full-time jobs but are still struggling to get by. So of a low-wage, minimum wage worker right now would have to work 2.5 full-time jobs just to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the Stamford-Norwalk area. Wow. It's not as though people aren't working and working hard. It's that we've created, for whatever reason, and you know, how we got here, there are lots of thoughts about, but we are in a place right now in Connecticut where people are struggling just to make ends meet. 40% of the population cannot make ends meet without public or private assistance. 40% of Connecticut residents struggle to make ends meet. I mean, we have to make some changes. It's impacting the employment situation. Employers can't hire great workers. Our roads are clogged. There's a lot of impact from that system. So that's what we're looking at. We're trying to create a more equitable system so that everybody can survive and thrive.
And you both mentioned, you know, your kind of role here is filling in those gaps. And you both talked about need during the pandemic. We had those federal ARPA dollars. Those have now expired, which has left people kind of with that cliff. And the state has been asked to come in and fill that gap with some of the funding. But, you know, we do know there's a lot of concern. We're hearing from nonprofits in all different sectors about the federal funding tap also being turned off with money that was anticipated, that was already allocated.
Billions of dollars has been poured down the drain to things. That's not about people, that's about contracts where billions and billions of dollars was just thrown out the window. It probably got kickbacks. I'm sure there were tremendous kickbacks for the people that authorized those contracts. I want the numbers, but I also want to keep the good people. We want to get rid of the people that aren't working, that aren't showing up, and have a lot of problems. And I think we're doing a really great job.
Mass unemployment, people are losing their jobs. Businesses and nonprofits are going to have to close their doors. People are getting hurt right now. He isn't just trying to make a political statement, he's trying to hurt us.
We know there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of confusion, but as of this taping, a federal judge extended the block on the Trump administration's attempt to freeze trillions in federal grants and other approved funding. The administration is expected to challenge that ruling, but both of you, really quickly in our last 2 minutes here, what has it been like for organizations, and yours specifically right now, navigating a lot of this uncertainty, not really knowing what's going to happen, where you're going to stand?
So there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of panicking. There's a lot of time and attention being spent on this. And so one thing that I would say is that even if the funding ultimately reaches its end goals, so many hours from people who are dedicating their lives to helping others entirely across the nonprofit sector, which, by the way, it's called the third sector because there's so many people employed in this sector. You know, all that attention that's been going to trying to do scenario planning and what does our funding stream look like and what are we going to do if we lose this funding? Do we need to cut programs? Do we need to cut staff? All of that time and energy is time and energy that's not going into helping people right now. So it's been frustrating, and you know we're working and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And I think what I'll just add to that is that that's what we're hearing from partners across the state, but that uncertainty isn't just at the nonprofit level, it's the people we serve. People are really worried right now. They're hearing different stories in the news. They're worried that programs like their food pantry that they've been going to, maybe their housing, maybe their Medicaid is at risk. And what does that mean for them and their realities? This is real people. These are our neighbors who are just getting by, who we're here to support, but we can only do so much. So I think in addition to the impact at the nonprofit level, it's those individual lives, our neighbors, seniors, children, adults with disabilities, veterans, their lives are being impacted by this in a really real way.
Sure. Well, Miranda,
if those safety net programs are truly cut, it will be catastrophic.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing across all the different sectors, but that's all the time we have today. But Nancy, Miranda, thank you both so much for helping to shine a light on this. We really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have more to get to here, though, on The Real Story. March is also Women's History Month, and Connecticut is rich with stories of trailblazing women who influenced American history. Coming up, we'll explore their impact and how you can experience their legacy firsthand. Stay with us.